morning, and welcome to the Mind, Heart, and Spirit podcast, a podcast that explores all things related to mental health and wellness. I am your host, Susumolu Shoyinka. I'm a board certified psychiatrist based in the greater Philadelphia area where I'm in private practice and I hold a faculty appointment at the University of Pennsylvania. It's a pleasure to have you join us. So, why another podcast on mental health? Well, I think it's obvious to most people that there has been a rise in mental health distress across the globe. I mean, even a cursory look online will show an increase in internet searches for topics related to things like anxiety, stress, depression, ADHD, and so on. And of course, in the public space, in public discourse, there's been increasing attention to the rise in mental distress. And all the objective data point to globally an increase in rates of mental distress. Now, the reasons for this are obvious or becoming more and more obvious. So, as I record this at the end of April 2026, the whole world is in the midst of a global energy crisis related to war in the Middle East. This has resulted in acute rise in cost of living across the board. And this is on top of a previous significant increase in cost of living since the end of the pandemic. So the economic uncertainty itself alone has generated significant anxiety. In addition to that, there are regional conflicts around the globe that have exposed many populations to violence. Tragically, this has increasingly included the use of sexual and gender based violence as a weapon of war, with the attendant downstream impacts on the mental health of people who have experienced these tragic abuses. And then, of course, the effects of climate change are increasingly being felt around the world. This is in form of altered weather patterns, floods, natural disasters, which have led to displacement, food insecurity, economic insecurity for many populations around the world. Now, there's been one recent critical finding that I think deserves particular attention, and that is the increasing evidence of the mental health impact of the steep rise in exposure to digital media, including social media, across the last 2 decades. This has been linked to anxiety and depression and even suicidal ideation, unhealthy self image, comparisons, and so on. And this particularly impacts young people. In addition to that, there's more and more evidence that there's a direct impact on brain development for young people. And then, of course, there are historical concerns related to possible increase in substance abuse across the globe. All of this is not taking into account the historical concerns that have related particularly to mental health and its treatments. Questions around things like stigma. For example, what does it mean to have a mental health condition? What does that mean for me? And the social connotations in many parts of the world. There are questions around how do people access treatment? How do you get help when you need it? Where do you go to get help when you need it? What does good help look like? Can I trust the help that I get when I go seek it? Can I trust the providers that I see when I go seek it? These are questions that people have. And so this podcast will explore all these questions, but with one added twist. In many parts of the world, faith communities are where people go to seek help for emotional or other kinds of psychological distress. That's where they go first. Unfortunately, historically, the relationship between faith and the mental health provider service community has not always been an easy one. There's been much misunderstanding on both sides. Nor has the role of faith itself in mental health treatment and recovery always been evident. But now we have increasing evidence that faith communities and faith itself can play a huge role, an important role in recovery. So, in addition to exploring all these questions, where do mental health conditions come from? How do you collaborate with your treatment providers to get help? How do you navigate what's very often a complicated maze of getting treatment? How do you deal with the impact of mental health on individuals and families and communities? How do we prevent mental illness in the first place? In addition to exploring all these questions, we will also explore the role of faith and faith communities in accessing treatment, in recovery, in supporting people with mental health conditions and their families, and in the recovery process from mental health and substance abuse. So, what can you expect from this podcast? Well, it's obvious that there's a lot to talk about. So, to do full justice, we'll explore these questions from multiple perspectives, but particularly from the perspective of persons with lived experience. That is, people who themselves have experienced a mental health condition and have taken the bold and courageous step of sharing their stories and their journeys with us. Because there's a lot to learn from people who have navigated this complicated space and have come out with important findings. In addition to that, we will feature guest experts from across a wide range of backgrounds. So these will be people who have experienced providing care directly. So clinicians, researchers, health system administrators, service line directors, and so on. We will also talk to people who have experience in advocacy, who have made it their life's work to move health systems forward, to ensure that there's access to people. We'll also interview people from a broad range of backgrounds, finance, law, the clergy, the faith community, and so on, so that we get a very round and important perspective. Also, seek to get perspective from people across the globe, so that because there are lessons to be learned from how things are done around different parts of the world. So for the first season, we will drop an episode every week for 8 weeks. We'll take a pause and then we'll come back to you with season 2. So we look forward to your participation. If you find this content valuable, please like, subscribe, and share with your network. And we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you for being here. Have a great day.